Will CARES Act 2 also target Instacart? And what happens to those Uber drivers and how much money could they get? Back to 4 years. That is an LALATE update we're delivering to you today for Thursday, May 7th. As always, like and subscribe to this channel and stay with us and comment below because we may feature your comments in tomorrow's video. All right, let's get right to it. CARES Act 2.0, as yesterday LALATE reported, really shocking news on two regards, coming from both Capitol Hill and from California. And a lot of you ask the question, is this going to apply on a national regards or only for California drivers? No, national. Congress, members of Congress, are in separate regard to California lawmakers and California legal minds as to how to deal with Instacart, Lyft, Uber, and all other type of organizations that treat individuals as independent contractors when it's, by allegation, might be actual employees. The questions you have been dropping in the comments, when we get to those in a second, is where does it stop? Is it just Uber or Lyft? Well, here we are. On Monday, California's Attorney General followed with a massive lawsuit against Uber and Lyft, adding also local jurisdictions of Los Angeles and San Diego counties, city attorneys into the action, alleging that Uber and Lyft had been using drivers for purposes of employees, of an employee situation, but classifying them as independent contractors. Meantime, on a separate regard, members of Congress, in discussing CARES Act 2, were discussing that these rideshare companies should perhaps be forced to pay or repay money that has been paid to their drivers as independent contractors when they should have been really paid as employees. And going forward, as stay-at-home orders are lifted across the country, how are their benefits to be paid? And what benefits are supposed to be given? We detailed this in great detail yesterday and featured Uber and Lyft's response, or at least Uber's response, to the allegations. But the concern is, how far do the allegations go? A lot of you have talked about Instacart, and some of you have talked about other organizations that deliver food to homes by vehicles, and those drivers are treated as independent contractors. Yes, members of Congress are thinking about this in a national regard for all states and all mechanisms of ride sharing or food delivery services. At issue is the following. Many, many years ago, a Supreme Court case decided, when do you classify a person as an independent contractor or an employee? It was a three-pronged test, as is often the case. The result is the current classification that's currently on the books across the United States. However, a lot of businesses like Uber and Lyft believe that under that test, their members of their workforce are actually independent contractors and should be treated as independent contractors for purposes of finances and the purposes of benefits. States are now not agreeing, and now members of Congress are also not agreeing. They think there's a twofold part of what's going on here, both what happened in the past and what's happening in the future. California is suing Uber and Lyft and asking for $2,500 per driver returned. It's also asking for earnings that Uber and Lyft made back 4 years. Finally, it's calling for payment for every classification in which a particular driver was impacted. It's a little bit complex, so I won't go into the detail here. But members of Congress have the same concern, that if you are coming back from the lockdown order and you're a driver and you did not work for a couple of weeks because you're an Uber, Lyft, or Instacart provider, then what's to happen? Are you to have benefits? Are you to have medical insurance? Are you to have health insurance? Are you to have employment security? Are you to have workers' comp availability if you're hurt on the job? You know, if you're an Uber or Lyft driver and you're hurt on the job, where is your recourse? There's those people out there, you know, they're called Uber lawyers, because they've had to deal with trying to get money for Uber drivers who are hurt while driving a car, because they're classified as independent contractors, not as employees. And that's what members of Congress are talking about. And let's look at this a little bit further. When you talk about PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which we've detailed on this channel, and you were an Uber driver and you've been let go, or had your hours reduced, or were unable to drive because of the pandemic, Well, you applied for PUA benefits from the state, but the state never had gotten salary taxes from Uber and Lyft, allegedly. So then what? That's why the states have issues. So let's turn to some of your questions. Mom says, I wish someone would talk about Instacart. Well, here we go. In my state, we have not been able to get any orders since April 11th. So she's saying that Instacart workforce people have not been able to get any work since April 11th. Well, you're entitled to PUA, potentially. But coming off of that, how about going forward? The allegations of these lawsuits and congressional work is that this all has to change on a global scale. So yes, Mom, you're absolutely right. Joey says, do you know anything about someone's payee on their SSDI check that has not gotten their stimulus? No dependents, and should it go on Chime? Strange question. Well, let's understand what Chime is. Chime is a system that, or more like a promotional idea, that they had to give advances to people before their stimulus check came in. And it got a lot of press for obvious reasons. So if they knew you were going to get a $1,200 check, they gave it to you a few days earlier. So Chime, I don't understand the impact of Chime on your question, but if you get Social Security benefits, you are entitled to a stimulus check, the first stimulus check. If you are on unemployment, you're entitled to a stimulus check. If you're on any type of state or federal benefits, you're entitled to a stimulus check. There's only certain eligibility issues when you're not qualified for a stimulus check, and that is when you're listed as a dependent. You do not, for example, your daughter or your son lists you as a dependent on a tax return. So maybe you're an elderly person and you appear on their tax return. That is a reason why you would not get a first stimulus check. Now, under the CARES Act, too, they're trying to resolve that. They're trying to get you that stimulus check. Pedro says, you seem to only mention another check in passing, but don't give us any focus. Is that still in the cards? And I'd like to know your view. Yes, it is still in the cards. The question is, how are those cards going to be dealt? The amount and the timeline, $2,000, 6 months at least, until unemployment numbers drop. You know, it was proposed several weeks ago. Now the focus is on putting people back to work. You know, we will see what happens in the next 7 days. I've said on this channel, I'll say it again, is that a second stimulus check should come. It should come for what you endured in the month of April. It should come now in the month of May. And you may need to check for what you endured in the month of May to come in the month of June. A lot of you are not going to be back at full capacity in the month of May, or you'll go back at full capacity later in May. So how about what happened in the month of May? Are you just supposed to sit around and get one check for $1,200 from March all the way until when you're back at full capacity in June? That doesn't work. Who's going to make rent? Who's going to make the utilities bill? That was not the purpose of the stimulus check. The original CARES Act called for 2 stimulus checks, one for each month. And some of the lawmakers trumped it, for choice of a bad word, verb, and it didn't get in there because they said they're going to address it at a later date. Well, now is the later date. I really think you're just going to get a second stimulus check. The question is how much. I don't think you're going to get $12,000. But I do think the federal government needs to be and will be the source of that second stimulus check. State resources are being diluted too quickly because of unemployment and PUA. Stephanie, I drive for both. 5-star driver. I don't think Congress knew how much drivers make a year or how many hours we put in. So I'm glad that they're looking into this. We work for the people. Lots of money, and Uber and Lyft is taking it in. Do we deserve benefits? Yes, indeed we do, says Miss Stephanie Ellis. Uber and Lyft cannot continue to operate like this. We should get more, a whole lot more. Could you even imagine if we were on lockdown on this? Every driver is valuable. We work for the people, just grateful to see us there. People in different sectors of the world drive. Thank you. She's right. She's right. And, you know, Uber's response to the litigation on Monday was that they're now trying to address issues about your benefits, Stephanie. Why now? Why now? I mean, we've been waiting around for this for years. Why now? Because you've been hit with a lawsuit? We don't know. SB says, hey, the big question, not me, but if someone's collecting PUA, oh, we got a PUA question. Someone's collecting PUA is making like $300 for driving Instacart Postmates. Will the IRS be able to know that if they don't claim the earnings? Well, you're supposed to. On the PUA form, you're supposed to indicate, if you're in a state that in which you declare your weekly benefits, you're supposed to indicate whether or not you got compensated that week. So you're supposed to declare it, and please do. As always, a lot of comments, a lot of questions. As always, drop your comments below. We respond to them in tomorrow, in tomorrow's update. And as always, stay with LA for more.